My name is Ms. Arvenetta Osborne Henry, and I'd like to give you a information on the history of Dr. Martin Luther King march to Washington, D.C. I was just a young girl, turned 13 years old, and I was working for How You Act, an agency that would hire young kids to give them some training to start working in the field. And so that year, my aunt, she asked me, did I want a summer job? And I said, sure. She said, well, you're only 13, you gotta, and all that's going on, this would be a good chance for you to start training to work and get some skills. And so she said that we're gonna have to put your age up, and I'm gonna send you downtown to a Teresa Hotel, and you will meet the youth director, Mr. Reginald Butts, and he's gonna interview you, and you will, if he hires you, now make sure you look him in the eyes and you speak proper, and he will hire you for the summer vacation. I said, okay. And so her name was Ann Perry Cooper. And I said, I'm going to do exactly what you said. I went to the interview, and there was a lot of activities going on 125th Street because of what was happening in our nation. So I had passed the interview, but he warned me, he said, you have to have good grades, and you got to make sure that you're studying. Because I have my niece, and she's coming up from North Carolina, and she's going to help all of you with your school work. And so I said, oh, okay. I was very shy and timid. And so when I started working, the second week, he brought in this textbook on Black history. I had never seen a book that thick. And it was about the history and adventures of Black people in our nation. And so he said, every one of you, you have to study this because you have been invited to go to Washington, D.C. for the march. And I was like, oh, I'm not going. I can't go. I'm too shy. He said, everyone is going, including you, Arvenetta. I said, Mr. Butch, I can't do that. I don't talk. I'm very scared of people. So he said, when Burrow get finished working with all of you, you will be glad to participate. And every day, 5 days in the week, we would come in. We would have studies, and then we would work with the children. And we had a homework assignment to read a chapter in the Black History book. I didn't know where it was going, but I was excited, and I was more excited because I met a young man named Stephen, and he would work with me, and we was like boyfriend and girlfriend. And I made sure I came to work and did what I needed to do. So when time came about, after working 5 weeks, the program was winding up, we got the word that our organization had been selected to go to Washington, D.C. to participate in the march. And one of us was going to speak. I was so excited, but then at the same time, I was afraid. And a neighbor in my building said, Arvenetta, this is an opportunity. You may not know its history, and you may not know too much about it, but tell your mother to let you go because it would be good for you. And so when my mother heard about it, and she knew all about the rights, and my father, he said, no, you're my only daughter. and I don't want you to go. And then my mother said, well, I'm from Alabama, and I know what it is like that. I don't think you should go either. But Miss Bartow, the neighbor, said, and she needs to go so she can understand what's happening in this country. And so they let me go. That day when we went down, we boarded the bus and everything. Well, it must have been about 25 of us in the group. And we had our How You Act t-shirts on. And we was more excited about being able to get out of the city and get out of New York City for a little while, and we're going to have a good time. We're not thinking about no march or anything. When we got off the bus, we were so far from the monument that they told us that we had to grab everything up and help take the picnic baskets and so forth down to the mark. And there we can get something to eat. We'll have some food. The walk was so long and it was hot. But at the same time, we had each other and we was talking about what we would do if a white man say something to us or a white woman say, and what we gonna do and everything. But we was reminded that we had a duty to behave ourselves and not start any trouble, because you're coming from Harlem and they know that you might, you coming from, to them, it's not a good place. And so I just looked around, and when I got down to where we were going for the march, the space and everything, I was so in awe to see the monument and to see who was speaking, and they singled out our organization. And I can't remember her name, but she was told to speak. And we all rallied around her, and she spoke, and she did such a good job that she was featured in the Amsterdam News also. And a write-up went up, and our picture went in the news as well. When we came back on the bus, I felt like I had been struck with lightning. All of a sudden, I wanted to do more marching. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to go down and speak my mind and tell people what I thought about them. And all of a sudden, I realized that racism was real. Segregation was real. And I started looking at going to school differently, and people in the classroom, and how things wasn't equal. And I just, even though I was quiet, I would just look around and try to understand why certain kids were picked to speak, hands were raised, and our black kids, we wasn't picked on to speak. And then I had an incident where my teacher, I used the vocabulary words that she said I should not have knowledge about. And it was just the word pregnant, because my mother was carrying my brother, was pregnant with my brother. And she said it was a curse word, and that she sent me to the principal. And it dawned on me that I was being singled out. And I wanted to learn more about what was happening in the nation. And so I started coming down to Harlem more and getting involved. And through How You Act and the Teresa Hotel, I started meeting more dignitaries and I met this young man named Barack, and he gave me a part-time job after school, and I was still involved with Haryat, and I was learning more about Black history and so forth. And that was my experience